Against this right back, Charlie, definitely.
You always use that active when defenders. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Man. Come on. And just as Ian Wright said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Special guest settings. Kendall, how you doing, man? Thank you for tuning in again. And it's always a pleasure to have you on my platform.
Yeah, I'm really, really good. Thank you. No, it's my pleasure as always. So thank you for having me.
Nah, man. I mean, both our teams are in the Champions League. Next season is going to be amazing. In fact, that's where I want to start. Obviously, now you've had time to, consider everything Newcastle have had. You've had a great season. What would you consider as the highs and the lows? And what's all your Newcastle thoughts with the season just gone, essentially?
To be honest, there wasn't really a low. And I know everyone keeps asking me that and what was the negatives to the season and stuff. The probably only negative was obviously the cup final because, but then I look at that and to me, it sounds, I know people say it's like tin pot or whatever, but it wasn't a negative to me. Yes, we lost, fair enough. I completely understand that. It was a hard feeling to take at the time because it's something I'm not used to. I'm not used to cup finals as a Newcastle fan. So it was tough to take at the time, but I came away from it and I was less sad than I thought I was going to be. I was just disappointed in the result. I wasn't disappointed in how we played. I wasn't disappointed in the whole thing in general. I came away and I was actually you know what, I'm really proud of them and I'm proud that I've actually got to see that. I've got to see my team at Wembley, which is something that I never ever genuinely thought I would ever see. So
I take it for granted now that you said that, man. I've been there quite a few times, really.
It wasn't a negative to me, really. So yeah, we've had a really, really great season. Obviously, Arsenal fans might look at it a little bit differently for you guys, just the way that I went towards the end. But yeah, our objective was never to get in the Champions League, and we did it. So yeah, really happy with how it went, to be fair.
I mean, it's nice to see that you lot took a place there. Spurs obviously messed up and you lot exploited them. And from a neutral, you can't have nothing but admiration for your football club, for what Eddie Howe's done, for the way you've played football. I was genuinely shocked when we beat you at your place. I thought we was going to be fed to the wolves. So you lot have done amazing in that regard. I also wanted to ask you, again, it's just really hit me. Obviously, you lot have new owners. What do you make of what's gone on with the Saudi, the players going to Saudi Arabia, the language behind it, the Gary Nevilles and Jamie Carragher's of this world? And what has it been like the somewhat talking points or reaction to your homeowners? We've heard about sports washing and the rest of it.
Yeah, I think the Saudi League's interesting because, look, China have tried it. America tried it, obviously, when David Beckham and stuff went there. And America's still... it's probably even getting more now. Obviously, Messi's going there, Busquets is going there now as well. So there's a lot of players going back to America, but that's kind of in their formative years, really. It's not in their prime. Whereas with Saudi now, you've got the likes of Ruben Neves in Saudi, who is only 26. So yeah, it's crazy. That didn't really happen with America, and arguably China, it did, because obviously you had Carrasco and stuff going there at the time, and I think it was Oscar or whatever was going to China. But
yeah, it was.
But they kind of weren't the big names like you would see in the Premier League who were going there now, like Kante as well, and obviously Benzema. But they're again later years in their career. I think it's great because it's just more football for me to watch. That's a good thing. It's just for football fans. It's more for us to watch. And I do think it's not going to be just like a flash in the pan situation. I think the Saudi League's going to be here. It's just going to be one of many probably coming up over the next few years, and it's going to be here to stay. And it will be taking players that you don't normally see just for the money. There's not FFP and things in the Saudi League, so they can kind of just do whatever they want at this stage. And it'll be obviously more prominent now with the players that are going there. With my owners, it is, I understand the concerns. I welcome the conversation. I'm not one who's blindly backs my owners just because they own my football club. I'm quite happy to talk about the situation and the ownership and things like that. But they're investing heavily in the area. They're not the only country with their own issues. I think we need.
Sorry to cut you, but when you say investing in the area, obviously I'm not from Newcastle. I don't support Newcastle, and I'm pretty sure a bunch of people on my channel don't. When you say investing in the area, what do you mean?
So they bought some of the land that is around St James's Park. So they're going to build like a fan zone and things there.
Crap.
They're
sick.
building different buildings around there. They do a lot of stuff like for the food banks and stuff. And I know it's quite a sad situation that we even have to use them and they're so prominent now, but they are investing a lot in there. And just like the local community, the foundation, the women's team, they're now a professional team, which they never have been. So this is the first ever professional full-time football team in the National League in history. So that's amazing. So yeah, they're just doing a lot in and around the area and around the city, the club. But as I say, I more than welcome the conversation. And I think when people moan about it or they have their concerns, I understand. But again, as I've just said, we really need to look closer at home. If you're only outraged specifically by that country, then your outrage is not, it's not genuine, because there is a lot of other countries that have issues. Our own in the UK, we have our own problems here. So that's always my take. But as I say, I'm not one who just backs them. I'm not like, don't parade the Saudi flag. I don't like do this, that, and the other. My club comes first, and that is mainly how I see it. But it's only going to get 10 times worse and more of a conversation, obviously, with the Qataris and Man United and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not. It's not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
To be honest, I share your opinions. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think there's a legitimate conversation, but I don't really think it matters whether you're a billionaire from England, from America, from wherever in the Middle East or wherever. I think you've got to keep it fair. And, there's a deeper question to be said about the money in football. And I always say it's very easy to look at footballers, I don't know, getting 300 grand a week. Realistically, from a business point of view, you're not going to pay someone 300 grand a week if you're not making more, whether that's what they offer on the footballing pitch, how they tie into collectively what you're doing, the image rights and the rest of it. And it's even things like you just said there, again, I think the headlines always say Saudi, Qatari, Russia, this, that, and the other, but they don't talk about, like you said, owners that I assume from the start have invested in, like you said, making the women's team professional, doing things around food banks and other little causes like that, and investing in Newcastle. Because as someone that's not a Newcastle fan, I think the most identifiable thing I conceive with Newcastle is, and I don't like to use the class example, but it just gives you the vibe of working class. The majority of people
100%.
are struggling. Exactly. The majority of people are struggling. The majority of people are just normal men and women that go to work, do whatever, and just go with football. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think there's a deeper conversation to be said about money. But as you know, with the TV rights and the fat cats, it mirrors society. So it's almost just a drop in the ocean. You kind of mentioned it in relation to Saudi Arabia, and I share your thoughts. And I go back to when Ronaldo said this league is going to become one of the biggest leagues. Do you think it's for legitimate reasons other than money? Like, would you say, players are tempted by just money, or is it a sense of living in a new country, a new experience, somewhat being pioneers and the rest of it?
I think at the minute is obviously definitely money related, just simply because
100%.
the Saudi league doesn't have the recognition, it doesn't have the the clout that the Premier League has, or you don't play in like competitions like the Champions League, so there is a lot of things that as a footballer, if you are interested in football as a footballer, that you would have in Saudi. So obviously, yes, it's definitely money now, but again, you could be like the face of the league right there now. You could be like a pioneer in that respect. And I think a lot of these players in the nicest way possible with egos like Ronaldo will want to be that. He'll want to be like the first one to go there and make something out of it as well. Do you know what I mean? He's always business minded. That's how he's so
That's fact.
like rich off the field as well. He's so wealthy, so he's always very business minded. So I think that's obviously going to be a big thing. But every Arab that I speak to, not just Saudis, just anyone from an Arab country, says they love winning. And football is absolutely massive there. It's like, obviously they follow Premier League teams, or like Real Madrid or whatever,
right.
popular teams. And football's massive there, so it can only be a good thing. Especially for, I know we're the only club at the minute owned by Saudis, but anyone owned by Arab countries, it can only be good for us because it's like global reach and things that we wouldn't have normally had in the past. So yeah, I think it's good. Obviously there's probably going to be legal loopholes that are closed over the next few years, I would say, because there is actually at this current time nothing actually stopping Al Hilal buying Kylian Mbappe for £300 million and loaning him to Newcastle United. There's actually, as of now, as far as I'm aware, there's actually nothing legally stopping them from doing that. I just don't think they will, because they're under a microscope as it is. I don't think they'll want to make
there's a RICO case
10 times
pending.
worse. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think a lot of legalities will be closed, and you'll only be allowed to do business in your like continent or like stuff like that. It'll just be, there'll be things that come into play probably over the next few years if it does carry on getting bigger, I think.
Like you said, there's probably a lack of legal red tape around it. You know, again, I'm not knowledgeable on it, but there was some things a few weeks ago about Chelsea selling all these players over there and doing certain things in that regards. Obviously, football doesn't matter what country you're from. You know, football is probably the most globally loved sport in the world. You know, it's a very easy sport to play where you lead to football. It doesn't matter if you're in Europe, in Africa, in Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. And I just think, if anything, you know, if we just band it over, like call it all like Middle East, we already saw a prototype of what it could be. You know, the World Cup was a fantastic spectacle on the field. Those who I've spoken to that were at the in and around the World Cup, they said it was amazing. And football's a global game. Unfortunately, the global game and our love for this sport, you know, the fat cats, the money men and women of this world kind of harvest that. Do you actually think, because we kind of run it, do you actually think it's a bad thing if a player just motivated by money? Because in any walk of life, if someone targets more money at a job, nobody says anything. Do you think that's a problem if that's a primary motivation for an individual?
Absolutely not. As you said, there's a lot of people in this life who are motivated by money, because money makes the world go around. No matter how much you want to, you know, try and deny that, it does. This world is literally made on money. So I don't
needed to survive, man.
Yeah, I don't actually think it's a bad thing if you're motivated by money. I'm motivated by money, but obviously because I don't have access to money like that, I don't have access to like millions of pounds. I cannot pick and choose what I'm motivated by. So we all are. We need money to survive. Like, that's just how the world is, and how this, you know, Western world and things like that is built on. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's only bad when only bad to people who have grown up on like footballers not being a business as it is now. I think the older generation who's seen the likes of Totti play at Roma for all of his career and being loyalty, but there's no loyalty in football now. You're so hard done by to be loyal in football, but you don't have to be. You don't owe anybody anything. So that is my thoughts on it, and I'm not like naive to think that money is the motivator. I
can't blame anyone, because football's a two-way street. You know, if you're 24 years of age, top of your form, you know, in the best form of your life, of course a club wants to keep you, but at some point you're going to be 34. You might not be that. The club might move on, and all you're going to get is a testimonial and a handshake. And I'm a big fan of not having any regrets, because, you know, if you was to go through 10 years from 24 to 34, and you think when that club is done with you, you know, what could I could have went Real Madrid, or I could have earned X amount of money. You want to have no regrets. I look at someone like Arsene Wenger, who, you know, stayed at Arsenal probably beyond his sale by date, and he had a lot of criticisms and things, but fundamentally, you know, we're kind of enjoying the fruits of his labor at the Emirates on top of what he's won for us. But at the same time, people just wanted you out. They didn't really care about none of that. So
it's a short career as well.
It's a very short career.
You're not working to 60-year-old. Like, so get as much money as you can in the 15, 20 years that you're going to be a footballer, and dip, because that's what you have to do. You don't have any, unless you go and be like a pundit or you've invested in your career or whatever, like, you don't have access to that. A lot of footballers have gone bankrupt. We've seen it loads of times. So
and still going to see it several other times. Unfortunately, it's crazy, but
it, man. Like, I just don't see the issue with it, really. As long as you do your job on the field, which is what you're paid to do, and you do it to the best of your ability, get the money. Take the money. It's not my money.
There's no issues. I'll do the same. If someone said they wanted me to make content over there, boy, I've got a decision to make. Like, and if I'm honest with you, from a lifestyle point of view, it's just hit me. You know, where I look at Koulibaly, Benzema, Kante, they're like, obviously religiously they're Muslims. Saudi Arabia could be a somewhat religious reason as to why they want to go there. So it's not. It's on top of seeing the world and things like that. I don't think there's a bad thing. If we move on to football now, before obviously I ask you about Newcastle, I want to ask you about some general things that have gone on in the world of football. I want to start with my club, because obviously you've got no loyalty to Arsenal, you've got no bias. When you saw firstly Arsenal were linked with Kai Havertz, and now obviously it looks like the deal's done, what did you think?
The amount, I was like, Jesus, Lord,
you're not alone on that one.
What is that, please? I was like, that is actually disgraceful, because I'm so sorry. I do not rate Kai Havertz. This is Arsenal aside. Not under Arteta Kai Havertz, not under Arsenal coaching Kai Havertz. As Chelsea Kai Havertz, I think he's crap.
I want the German one, not the Chelsea one. I agree with what you're saying.
Being as polite as I possibly can be. He's living off the Champions League goal, obviously. Fair enough, great goal. But he's just not good. And the stats show he's not good. Previously at Chelsea, fair enough, there was a player there. I'm not even saying he can't improve under Arteta, because I think he can. I think pretty much every bar, maybe he's a very small handful, is improved under Arteta. And I think he's a fantastic coach. So maybe he will improve. Obviously, he's been in a few different positions. I've heard that he's going to play him in midfield as like an 8. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. But I think he probably will improve. But yeah, for the amount of money, I think it was like Chelsea have actually come out of that deal incredibly well, which they are across a lot of deals this summer. I don't know what is going on there, but they are getting so much good money for some of their like just players that have just been on the fringes for like months and months and months. Not Kai Havertz obviously, but like the likes of Loftus-Cheek and things like that. He's obviously going to Milan and things like that. So yeah, it remains to be seen what he's going to do, because again, he might improve, he might bag you lots of goals from midfield, he might be a creator, you just don't know at this stage. And I have got a very different opinion than I had 2 years ago, because I've seen my players improve that I would literally have never in my life thought would have been like a
I think
Champions League
Joe
level.
Linton proved me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, because Nelson was on loan at
Me as
Hoffenheim
well.
when Joe Linton was there. I was thinking 40 million for him. You got to be crazy. And as you've seen, the man's been turned into a central midfielder. And that's where I share your thoughts. It's nice to ask the neutral so I don't appear crazy. I think there's many reasons to be kind of positive and negative. I'll kind of start with the positives. As you just said there, Mikel Arteta, you know, the world wanted Xhaka gone. You got a tune out of him. Odegaard, when he initially came on loan, fans weren't necessarily happy. Obviously, I've seen Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, and a bunch of players go from strength to strength with Arteta. And I think at 24, 25 odd years of age, Havertz now needs to hit that pivotal point of his career where it's either I'm going to go up or I'm going to be like this forever. Now, you're probably on a 4 or 5 year deal at Arsenal, 200 grand a week. You know, it's better than others. So they're the things I kind of like. What I don't like is, obviously, both our clubs are in the Champions League. With us being in the Champions League, I hope Arteta's got an idea, but I don't immediately see how he improves our team. As you said, he might be made into an 8. I'm happy to entertain that. I don't really buy him playing as a false 9, especially trying to eclipse Jesus. It's more of what he could be versus than what I do see. Like, I'm going to ask you about Declan Rice, but Declan Rice, you could see immediately what he brings to the table. That Timber guy from Ajax, we need defensive reinforcements immediately. And Havertz is the one we're probably looking at with us being in the Champions League, with what you've said about him and the opinions that all of us kind of share on him. That's where I want to see him hitting the ground running, because I do think there's raw materials there, but not every player is surely a project player. And it seems like Arteta, as much as I like him, he seems to think he can save everybody. And I'm not too sure if you could do that with Havertz, but I hope to be proven wrong. And I'm going to give the man a chance. What do you make of Declan Rice to Arsenal, especially 100 odd million quid now?
I love Declan Rice. Whenever I was asked the last couple of weeks of the season if I had a dream signing for Newcastle, it was not necessarily a dream, but like one that I would have wanted, it would have been Rice. I just think he is the only player outside of the big 6 teams traditionally at St James's Park ever that I have seen run the shows the way that he did. Despite the result, everything was coming.
At the Emirates now, man. If he's going to deal with that,
coming through here. Honestly, I am so like praiseful of this guy. I don't even know if praiseful is a word, but like I'm so incredibly a big fan of this guy. Like, I just think he's so good. Obviously 105 million, you look at it, you think that is a lot of money, but again, as I said, it's not my money, so whatever.
Amen. I share that thought.
Despite the fact that I think he's amazing, when no matter who he was, a player going for 105 million makes my head fall off, because I'm like, what the absolute hell? Like, that's crazy. But it's nothing to do with him. It's nothing to do with his abilities. That is what he's worth to West Ham Football Club, and that is worth to Arsenal. Yeah. The market's raised. The inflation's massive in football now, and that's not his fault. And he doesn't choose the price tag. So it's just what he's worth to the bidding club and also the club that he's currently at. So that's where it's landed. I think he's incredible. Unlike Kai Havertz, I think Declan Rice immediately improves your team, no matter who he is. I agree. And I actually think I'm actually impressed with Edu, because he's learned from his previous mistakes with the likes of Mudryk, with the likes of like even Bruno, Vlahovic. Where
just as you said there, Gomares, you reminded me. I don't know how he's not in an Arsenal shirt. I don't know what we was doing there, man. Pull
So he's learned from his mistakes. He's identified a key target, or Arteta's identified a key target, and he's gone for him, and he hasn't backed down this time. 3-4 ish bits later, which obviously they're still negotiating on. So yeah, I just think Declan Rice is great, and yeah, he's going to improve Arsenal no matter what happens, I think he's going to improve them. So, yeah, I'm a very big fan of Declan Rice.
I mean, while I'm excited, it's not over the line. But one signing that does
Yeah.
look like it's confirmed is you lot with Tonali. Did that take you by surprise? I don't know, because I think with Newcastle fans, I think you lot have to become accustomed to bringing in these sort of players now with the Champions League, with the money, with obviously people like Gomares and people of that ilk. Other players are going to want to go over there. So what do you make of the Tonali move? Do you actually share any concerns? Because some people say, oh, you know what, the Italian players, they don't typically move to the Prem, etc., etc. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it was out of the blue, because obviously we've been linked heavily at like a lot of other players, James Maddison for one. But I'm not going to repeat myself. I've honestly probably said this a million times. If anyone's seen that argument that I had with Jay, the Tottenham fan, on a girl's channel, then you will have seen that I was literally insistent that we had not bid for James Maddison. We hadn't bid for James Maddison. So it wasn't a case of, oh, well, you got outbid by Tottenham and you wanted to go to Tottenham over Newcastle. We were interested in him, but he was never we didn't put an offer down. So it's not like he actually went, I've got offers from these clubs, I'm going to go to Tottenham. It wasn't like that. I wish him the best. I think he's a great player, and I did genuinely think he was going to be in a Newcastle shirt this summer, just simply because of how heavy we'd been linked with him since last summer.
Very
in
aggressive
January
links
as well. Yeah, we'd even put a bid in January, and Leicester said no, they wanted 60 million. He's ended up going for 40, which again, for a player in his last year of his contract, I think that's quite a significant amount of money. Leicester have again done very, very well in that deal. So yeah, it is what it is. The Tonali links though, I've noticed as a club now, we're very tight-lipped. There's not a lot of leaks get out, which I like.
That's very good, actually.
Yeah, and when a leak gets out, it's pretty much usually means the deal's very much done. So like Botman, for example, that one dragged on a little bit longer, but Bruno was out of nowhere. Isak was out of nowhere. Nick Pope.
Yeah, Isak was definitely out of nowhere. Definitely,
yeah, it was like
out of
2
nowhere.
days and done, which is usually the case now for the club, so which is great. I think Tonali, I'm not a Serie A fan. I don't watch Serie A on a regular basis. I only watch the teams in like the Champions League, or I'll watch Italy and things like that. So I have seen him play for the under-23s in the Champions League. Champions League's a bit weird because he's had a few performances in the Champions League. Tottenham fans like reminding me of what's he called? Sarr. Getting the better of him in the Champions League, or Chelsea fans were like, oh, Ruben Loftus-Cheek ran rings on him. Listen, as I've said,
human, man.
Similar to Havertz, I think Eddie Howe will improve him no matter what. Italian players, yes, of course. Jorginho doesn't count because he's Brazilian. He's technically Brazilian. Italian players in the Premier League are few and far between, but that's simply because Italian football is very, very different to a lot of the football that's played in Europe.
They're quite loyal to over there.
Yeah, I'll die on that hill. You see a lot of players like Buffon and Totti and things like that, Maldini, who stay pretty loyal to a lot of their clubs over a long period of time. So I'm really just looking forward to it. I just want it done. The rumours are that it's not going to be done until July the 1st because of the financial calendar in football and Italian football transfer window and things like that. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to it, man. And it's just like, I think we'll change a little bit of our formation next season as well with him, because I don't think he's coming to be a 6. I think it's going to be him and Bruno covering an 8 and a 6 together as like a double pivot. I think that's where it's going to lie. I mean, I could be wrong. Eddie Howe's proved me wrong a number of times, so that remains to be seen. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with a player of his calibre. Getting a young player who's probably going to be captain of the national team, who is one of AC Milan's young gems, to leave AC Milan at this point is massive. And yes, money, fine. If we are doubling his wage, that's absolutely fine, but it's still well within our wage structure.
It's what you got to do at the end of the day. Yeah,
well within our wage structure. And the 55 million, 65 million that's been reported is actually apparently way off the actual fee that we paid. We paid much less than that. So I'm more than happy with that deal, definitely.
And them sort of signings, you know, you've got Gomares, you've got Tonali, you've got Isak. As I always say, you know, these are players, and you know, obviously you got to do the business on the field. If Eddie Howe keeps doing his thing, if you keep getting in the Champions League and whatnot, and you're signing these players, naturally, when you're going after other players of that sort of caliber, or the European sort of base players, they're going to want to sign for Newcastle beyond the obvious, because that is what you need to do. So I think it's a step in the right direction. On the topic of the Champions League, now 9 times out of 10 last season, you lot played one game a week, a bit like Arsenal with the Europa League. The luxury is while we didn't have to play our strongest team. Arteta did. You don't really have to take the Europa League group stages seriously with respect to the competition. You do have for the champs. What do you make of your fixture calendar list then? You know, assuming, you know, you're playing on a Tuesday, Saturday, and you probably need a bigger squad. You probably need more rotation. You probably, a lot of the same things that are probably interchangeable with Newcastle at this moment in time are the same with my club, Arsenal. So what do you make of, you know, on paper, you're in the champs, you're in the league, you're still in the league and FA Cup unless you go out. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, you know what? I was quite honest last year and I said, listen, the chain of events that's happened this season, we're very highly unlikely to ever see it again. So it was absolutely paramount that we got Champions League in the position that we were in last year. Like being in top 4 or 5 for most of the season, it was paramount because Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs all fell off. You know, Man United had a really bad end to the season. Well, bad end last part of the season.
Liverpool made a mess of things as well.
Yeah, Liverpool made a mess of everything. There was just, we had only had one game a week. There was like, well, apart from the Carabao Cup, but there was things like that'll just never happen again because that chain of events was very favourable for us in that period of time. Obviously, now we're there on merit. We've got in the Champions League on merit. We've got to now attack it. We've got to have depth, which is something we do not have.
I share your opinion on that.
Yeah, depth and quality we just don't have. We have a starting 11 and maybe 3 players that are of the same starting 11 quality. The rest are championship players because they literally have been there since we were in the championship. That's not their fault. It's just the way the direction of the club was in, and us not doing a rebuild as we went. It literally is just happening now. So we don't have that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we approach next season and who we get in this summer, because we are linked to the likes of Livramento, who I think Livramento is an absolutely fantastic player. But again,
he's had a big injury.
Yeah, he's probably not going to come in and be like, right, you're a starter every week, because he plays in Trippier's position. I know he can play a left back as well if he needs to, but he's just not going to be a starter. But that for me is great depth because he can actually play in the league, and he's got league experience and he's good enough to play there. So across positions, we don't have that. Like you probably feel similarly. We don't have that where we can field 2 starting 11s, which is what Eddie Howe has said.
Or if a couple of players are not in, then you don't really have the same sort of function in unit. So you're right, man. I think there's a lot of parallels between our two clubs, essentially. He said that he wants 2 starting 11s, and actually we just don't have, as I said, we have one at the minute and a couple of extras. So we really need to do that. It's not all going to be done in one window. We've got to be realistic. But our first 4 fixtures are probably the hardest out of the league, if not the big 6/7. So we've got Aston Villa. I don't know the order, but I know the 4. It's Aston Villa, Man City, Liverpool, Brighton, I think. Oh, that's a tricky start to the season, isn't it? Really, truly. At least you get some of them out the way early doors. That's
true. I'd like Man City out the way early and Liverpool because
both seem to
pick up. Yeah, both seem to pick up later on in the season. So I'd rather have them early just to try and at least maybe get points. We struggle against Liverpool every time, no matter what it is. No matter how crap Liverpool are, honestly, they would beat us. They were 19th in the league and they would still beat us, which is one of them. Can't stand it. So yeah, just get them out the way early. And then luckily, our fixtures either side of the Champions League fixtures are okay. On paper, they're okay. So, yeah, we'll see. And we also get a bye in the Carabao Cup round. We'll actually get past it. Normally, we don't. Last year, we got the final, which is fair enough. FA Cup and things like that, we don't get past 3rd round. Normally, it's like literally FA Cup 3rd round is just... If we get past that, I'm like, oh, we're winning it. Because it's just like, we don't do it normally. So, it's got to be like the sign. But, man. I'm just... looking forward to it mostly. There's going to be a lot of games, and I've got to save a lot of money this season to try and get other games.
I mean, I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. Obviously, if we look at certain other things that have gone on in the footballing world, what do you make of a player who's been linked with Newcastle and today actually been linked with Liverpool? What do you make of Szoboszlai?
I rate him massively, very, very highly.
High technical level.
I watched him last season because I started doing a bit of commentary last season and I was doing a lot of Bundesliga games. So I watched him quite a lot. And I just think he's just so good. He's just technically very, very gifted. He's very versatile. He can play wide, he can play centrally, he can play as a 10. Like he's just everything that I would want in a player that we were going to spend that kind of money on. It is reported heavily that there is only a release clause until the 30th of June. And then past the 30th of June, there's not a release clause anymore. So obviously it's in Leipzig's favour. If Guardiola goes to Man City as well, they're not going to be in a position where they need to sell.
And obviously they just sold Nkunku to Chelsea a year ago as well.
Nkunku's just gone to Chelsea. So yeah, they're not in a position, if obviously the outgoings, where they need to sell. So whether or not we decide that's the right deal to do, because we are very opportunistic, like Tonali, for example. If there's not a deal there to be done, we kind of don't press on. Yeah, we just leave it alone, and we're like, look, we just want it as easy as possible, and we want to know the player wants to come. Obviously, everyone gets a knickers in a twist, and they're like, "Oh, he's like to post on Twitter. He's on Instagram. You know,
you gotta
Newcastle
love social media.
They think
fans,
he's coming." Which just we laugh my head off. But yeah, I would be so happy, and this sounds mad because it's a lot of positions we need to cover. But if we got Livramento, Szoboszlai, and Tonali this window, that would be a 10 out of 10 window for me, 100%. I would just, because that covers quality in the positions that we need for now. So yeah, I would be happy with that. But Liverpool are linked now. There's 2 days till his release clause runs out. I doubt that gets done. So we'll see.
Would you make of Harry Kane to Bayern Munich allegedly, because the first bid has been rejected?
Yeah, you know what? I'd put a poll on Twitter yesterday, and I said, because a lot of people have different opinions, like, would you rather go to the Bundesliga and win titles every year, win trophies every year, or stay in the Premier League and win no trophies but get the goal scoring record? And honestly, it was so different that the replies, I just thought it would be straight, yeah, trophies, because I was Kovacic going to Man City, was like, yeah, trophies is what I'm here for. I just like winning trophies. And I feel like a lot of players probably do have that mentality, but Harry Kane, I just think he thrives off individual honours, and you're absolutely more than welcome to do that, especially in a team where, not to be disrespectful, where you don't win team trophies.
Be extremely disrespectful to them. You're just talking facts. Spurs don't know what winning is. They're nicknamed the Lily-Whites.
Yeah, so he's got to take what he can get individually. So I don't think he goes to Bayern Munich, I'm afraid. I just think his mentality is the Premier League, and he wants that goal scoring record, and if that leaves him a bigger legacy than a couple of Bundesliga titles will, then fair enough. But I think he should just go. Just if it was me and I was in that position, and no Premier League clubs were interested in me anymore, Tottenham, you may stay at Tottenham, but they're going to lose you on a free next summer. Maybe he will do that. And just start padding the best way he possibly can for the next year or so for that goal scoring record. But if it was me, I'd like to embrace a new challenge and go and experience a trophy, because he hasn't ever done it. He hasn't won any trophy, not even with
England. Definitely not at Spurs. He might have picked up something where he's been on various loans before his time there, but it can't be anything other than the Championship and things of that ilk, with the greatest of respect. So you're right. So
I go and experience it. But again, similar to Declan Rice, he was obviously linked with Bayern as well, but whether or not Harry Kane goes, I don't know. So we'll see.
It's a techie one, and it's an interesting one, because I don't know where I'd be. On one hand, I'm agreeing with you. I think, you know what, I'm 29 years of age. I've still got a number of years. I've given Spurs my life. I've probably missed out on a move to City. If United was still United, I probably could have gone over there. Football's a team game. It's not like it's golf or Formula One or anything. Well, while you've got sub teams and stuff, it's not really about individual hours. Of course, if you can eclipse someone like Alan Shearer or get close to him for the Golden Boot, that's great. That's something to tell your grandkids about, and the various things the man's done. But it's all kind of in vain. Like, a man got 30 league goals last season. He's unfortunate that all the buzz is Haaland, but you've got nothing to show for it. If I'm him, it's kind of now or never. At Bayern Munich, I know they took it to the last game of the season last year, but you're going to pick up trophies. While I have no evidence, because the man hasn't gone abroad before, I don't think he's someone that will struggle to move abroad. It seems like there's a lot of English speakers, whether they're English or not, at Bayern Munich. You've got Tuchel. You're going to be in the Champions League. I just feel, and Levy's going to play hardball over you. I'm sure Daniel Levy would rather sell him abroad, but he's going to play hardball. If I'm Kane, I actually genuinely think Kane could be lied to sign a new deal. You bring in Maddison, you confirm Kulusevski. If this new manager does something half decent, gets them in the Champions League, I still think Kane, a bit like Rice, he badly wants to win something at Spurs, and although I don't want to see it happen, I can't begrudge him for that. If I was him, I probably would angle for the move to Bayern Munich, or I wouldn't sign a new deal, purely because if I'm Harry Kane and I do Harry Kane stuff, I'm going to get that move in there on a free. And plus, you got the Euros to think about. I'm not sure if he wants to uproot his family and small kids just yet, but I would go to Bayern Munich. It feels like, obviously, a player like Kane's always going to be wanted by big teams, but when the Bayerns and the Madrids and historically Barcelona and these teams come calling for you, surely it's far too difficult to turn down. So I'm with you. If I'm Kane, I'm cutting. For Spurs, though, it's almost cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you could bring in Kulusevski on a permanent, Maddison. They've been linked with Harvey Barnes and whoever. but you're going to have to spend a lot of money on another striker. And if, you know, as you know, the market for strikers, you lot have just got Isaac, where people are kind of turning up their nose, me included to him. There's not really a whole, you know, roster of strikers. And if you try and buy like Osman, for example, Napoli, who are difficult to do business with, they're going to say, well, you're a Premier League team. You just got money for Kane. We would have charged you 100. It's 120 now. So I'm not sure what they will actually do in that regards, if I'm honest with you. What do you make of you lot being linked with Cucurella and Robertson? It seems like the Tierney links have kind of gone away.
Yeah, I think they have. He's linked heavily now with a move back to Celtics.
This man needs to stay. I don't know about the Celtic thing, but he needs to stay.
I don't know what's going on with that. This is the problem. Left back is really a priority position for us, because Dan Burn, as much of a great job he's done,
seems like it's over now.
Yeah, it's done. Like, that was the experiment of last season. It was for necessity, and he did a great job. We now need an actual left back. Obviously, we've been linked with like Theo Hernandez as well, and players like that. I mean, that's massively unlikely. I just don't see that getting done. We're not going to take 2 Milan players in one window. Yeah. It's just not. I
hope you're proving wrong for Newcastle's sake, but you can't really see it.
I hope, but I doubt it. So yeah, Cucurella, I don't rate that guy neither. When he went for 50 million, even so, I was like, that's not good.
They need to report Brighton for fraud. I don't know how. I don't know what's happened to him.
Literally, depending on the price, because again, there's players that I would think, oh my God, I would never have to be my team in a million years, that I would probably look twice at now, simply because of Eddie Howe. Like, I think he can improve pretty much anyone.
I've definitely learned that under Arteta as well, if I'm honest.
Improving our system. So that's why I'm kind of not as against some transfers as I normally would be. So yeah, I wouldn't like Cucurella, I'm not going to lie. It's just not, if he comes, then fair enough. But Robertson, he's another one. I rate Robertson quite highly. I think he's
quite decent, the Fulham lad, yeah.
So yeah, wouldn't mind Robinson. And again, it's just filters into a kind of another nationality, because he's American. So American, we already have a lot of American fans, surprisingly. So it would just feed into another market, I guess. So yeah, it's difficult. I think fullback's probably one of the hardest positions to get in a transfer window, because fullback. A fullback position now, because of the way football is, now you've got inverted fullbacks and you've got wing backs and stuff. A traditional fullback, which is what we play with the back four, it's quite hard to come by a decent one. So I think it's probably one of the most difficult positions to get in the market, along with the goalkeeper, because again, goalkeepers, decent ones, are very few and far between now as well.
Yeah, you're right, man. I think in football nowadays, you can get all these fullbacks that can do all this inverted stuff. Can they actually defend? Centre backs the same. And with goalies, a lot of them are great with their feet, but a lot of them have too many errors, and a lot of them ain't really got a steady pair of hands. I want to get into the questions that obviously I've asked people to, and yourself as well, off social media. Somebody has said, I definitely want to hear Kendall's thoughts on her midfield, and what's the one thing she's looking forward to the most in the Champions League? Also, how would you react if she was in the same group as how would she react if she was in the same group as Atletico Madrid? So I assume that last part is if Newcastle and Atletico are in the same group.
Yeah, I always used to get asked that, like, because obviously I followed, not obviously people might not know, but this picture here is Fernando Torres in an Atletico kit. So I followed Atletico as well since 2004-ish.
Oh, you told me you went on holiday to a game or something like that. Yeah,
went on holiday, saw Fernando Torres in a reserve game, and I just loved him. So I've followed them ever since. And I always used to get asked, oh, if Atletico and Newcastle played each other, like, what would you do? Who would you want to win? I'm like, Newcastle, because Newcastle are my team. I would want Newcastle to win every single day of the week. That's not even a question. But then I also used to preface it with, well, that'll never happen though. So, you know, we're never going to play them
and God said, friendly. Now it is potentially.
Yeah, God was like, sorry, I'm just making a mug of you once again, as usual. We've got beef.
Kieran Trippier, that'll be
God at times. So we've actually, like, Manquillo as well, played for both teams.
Oh yeah, shit, yeah, him as well.
Yeah, so it would be difficult, and I'd love it. That's my dream Champions League. If we get Atletico in the groups, I'll be Diego Simeone at St James's Park as like my dream. Whether or not it's is the manager or not, manager of the opposition, fair enough. But I still want to see it. So yeah, I'll be really, really looking forward to it. I'll be happy if we get them in a group. It'll be great. Midfield wise, I do think we still need. Obviously, we've got Tonali now. I think we're all right as it is. I would have loved an actual proper six, though, like an actual DM, not a player like Bruno, like Tonali, who can play kind of a multitude
someone who that's them on paper. That's all they're going to do is break up opposition.
DM. I would have liked that. I don't think we'll probably go for that now just because of Tonali, but yeah, it remains to be seen. I still think we need an attacking midfielder as well.
I didn't even ask you, but what's your expectations on the Champions League? Because for me, as an Arsenal fan, I just don't want to get embarrassed in the group. I want to get out of the group as a minimum, get into the last 16 and just give a good account of ourselves. If we can have a great away game or a great game at the Emirates where we beat one of the big dogs, then fair enough, really. I hope that we're able to do somewhat when Leicester City won the Prem and we can surprise people. But I don't really have that many expectations because I feel the Champions League's a different ball game. How do you feel about Newcastle in the champs? For that matter.
Yeah, same. I just want to get out of the groups. That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
I don't care what happens after
again.
that. Yeah, don't care what happens after that. I just want to get out of the groups because everybody is waiting for us to fail. Everyone is sitting there being like, "Oh, Newcastle's going to do nothing in this Champions League," and I'm just so desperate to prove everyone wrong. There's so many people saying it, and fair enough. I see why they're saying it. We've got no history in the Champions. I mean, we have been in the Champions League before, but like we haven't won
like
it
us,
or
nothing.
like
We
that.
ain't won it, so
yeah, nothing of any importance in the Champions League. So yeah, and I'm not one of these either who wants the easiest draws. I do not care who you give me. I honestly at this stage, like to be the best, you've got to beat the best. I always say that. I am more than happy if we get Bayern, if we get Real. We won't, because I think it might be in the same pot. Oh no, I think Bayern and Barcelona will be in the same pot. So I don't care if we get Bayern, Real Madrid, and Inter Milan, for example. I don't know.
I hear Bayern in the champs. I start getting nervous if I'm honest. As an Arsenal fan,
I honestly don't mind. I'm like, I just give me it. I'd love AC Milan just simply because we took Sven Botman from them, and we're going to take Tonali. So I would love them just for like the beef, cause. But yeah, I'm more than happy. Just as long as we get out of the groups, I am not bothered. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, it doesn't matter if you come third because you can drop down the Europa League and you might win it. I mean, fair enough. But as I said, I'm not interested in that. I just want to prove everybody wrong, and I want to prove that we actually can be like one of the best teams in Europe. So I'm more than happy with just to get out of the groups, and then I don't care what happens after that. Again next year.
That is fair. Somebody has said, I think it's a double-edged question. I'll let you answer it first. In all seriousness, Pep Guardiola has always been labelled a checkbook manager, and how fans are feeling about Arteta and Edu. Sorry, I think this is structured poorly. In all seriousness, Pep Guardiola has always been labelled as a checkbook manager. How are fans feeling about Arteta and Edu heading down the same route?
I wouldn't necessarily call Arsenal a checkbook team or Edu a checkbook manager. I mean, you have spent money, that's fair enough, but just because they're targets, you're going for quality enough to be that amount of money, similar to Pep, I wouldn't necessarily call them checkbook managers. Like PSG, you can call a checkbook team because they literally just go and get Neymar, for example, and Mbappe. Like they just go and get whoever,
it's like FIFA players.
Yeah, they're not targeting players for the team. They're targeting players for who the players are. Like they're not targeting them to play on a system. Whereas Arsenal and Man City are. Like Calvin Phillips is not a Man City signing in reality. Let's be fair. Like, but Pep thought, he would come in and do a job in a role. However, he's paid 5 minutes, but whatever, who cares? Like, that's Pep and Arteta. The Premier League's very different to the likes of a PSG. Even like Bayern to a stretch, they actually buy players who can play in the team, not just like randomly.
It's not just name brands and stuff like that.
Like it's not a club's fault if they've got money to spend. Man City, like look, Man United, for example, you can call them a checkbook team if you want, right? Because they've picked for the last 25 years have picked all of the best players from across the world.
It's got maybe Pogba, Sancho, Anthony, and it wasn't
maybe the last 5-6 years been less of the same of the best players, but they still have spent 80 million on the likes of Anthony and things like that, and they've spent badly. They haven't spent good. They haven't spent smartly. They haven't spent on players who can improve the team massively or play in a certain system. So it just depends on how you spend the money. I don't think spending money is the issue here. And I think obviously a lot of teams are going to be upset that Arsenal can actually go and spend 100 million on one player. I think that'll be the
used to pray for times like this.
How are they doing that? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, just let people crack on. It's not your money. I'm sorry that your club's not doing it. Like that's what when people get onto Newcastle all the time and they're like, "Oh, you're just spending money. Like you've spent money against."
And no one cared when you weren't spending money.
Yeah. Oh, no one cares when we were spending like we couldn't even pay Hamza Chowdhury loan fee. You know what I mean? Like no one cared about that. So I just think it's normally from a place of jealousy and bitterness normally. So yeah.
I share what you're saying. I think spending money, if spending money was everything, then everyone in the Premier League has spent money. You know, I've seen my club buy, I liked Lacazette, but 50 odd million for a guy, and we're talking about working hard. Pepe didn't work out. I wouldn't say they're expensive, but it was an expensive free transfer with Willian, etc. You know, Spurs have bought Richarlison and Ndombele. The list is there. United the same. It's about the hit. It's about the success rate. And I think Pep Guardiola, yeah, he spends money, but that's what he's about. You know, he's shown he can improve players. You saw it at Barcelona. You've seen it with some existing players that were at City. Delph is probably a great example. Fernandinho waxes lyrical. It comes with the territory. As long as spending money, there's a means to an end. Haaland, it worked. Grealish's second season, he's showing ability. Rodri wasn't exactly cheap in the dynamic of things.
John Stones.
People used to tell it John Stones about his ability and things, and now look, everybody's waxing lyrical. So it comes with the territory, and definitely where you're City, to stay at the top, you have to get the best. For Arsenal and Newcastle, as you said earlier, you've got a couple of players that have been there from the Championship. How are you going to get better consistently having players of those caliber? Of course, you're going to get the rare one. You know, scouts might do their job for us with Martinelli and things like that, but that's a terrible way to go. As long as the players work, which I hope Havertz is, I've got confidence in Rice and Timber. I don't know for Havertz. It comes with the territory, really and truly. You know, Ten Hag's opened the checkbook since he's joined United, and I'm not criticizing Ten Hag because I actually think he's a great manager, and you can see why players would work there. But it comes with it. I'm sure all of these clubs, if they could find unknown gems and all of these things, they would. But unfortunately, you know, you could be, I don't know, you could be AC Milan, I could be Arsenal, and we're going for the same player. You might get him for 20 million. I might have to pay 40 million. It's like being a British tourist and going abroad. You're not going to pay the local rate, especially where you speak to people out of Italy, out of Spain, or you listen, better yet, to the FAs over there. They're all very critical of the money England's earning, especially as we're going over here and the rest are going down there. Like you in January for the Zanolio, obviously went to Galatasaray, but Bournemouth are going toe to toe with AC Milan. So it's the industry, it's the dynamics. For me, it's what comes with the territory. It's either you put up the cash or not. And where Arsenal are concerned, for one reason or another, you know, when you look at Vlahovic, Locatelli, Mudryk, Rafinha, when we have put down the money for one reason or another, we haven't got it over the line. So I like it to happen. And as you said at the start, it ain't my money. So really, I'll hold the banner and things, but I don't really give a flying monkeys. Someone said, I want to hear her thoughts about Tonali over Maddison. There was a report about it today that it was one or the other. Where do you stand with that?
As I've said, I don't necessarily think it was one or the other. I think we just wanted to spend a significant amount of money on a midfielder, which we have done in Tonali. I think Maddison was a target of old, but the interest was just still there just because of the links, and he's really good friends with Callum Wilson, so because obviously Cov boys. So yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a case of we were interested in Maddison and it was one or the other. We went for Maddison, we couldn't go for Maddison, so it was Tonali. I just think a lot of the times with our club, the way leaks are done now, it's a smoke screen half the time. There'll be links, but we're actually interested in someone else and we get a deal done far behind the scenes with someone else. So it's happened in the past. We were interested in Diego Carlos, who's at Aston Villa. We went and got Botman. We were interested in, I'm trying to think of who else we were interested in, and then we went for somebody else. Paqueta, for example. We ended up getting Bruno. It's just like things like that. So yeah, it's kind of a smoke screen half the time. So I don't think it was necessarily one or the other, but I'm happy with Tonali over Maddison. But I do wish James Maddison, I don't wish him too well, because obviously don't want him to do well at Spurs, obviously. But I wish him all the best, and no hard feelings.
That's how I felt with Rice and Caicedo. I'd love both of them, but you can't have them all, and it all costs a lot of money. Somebody said Newcastle have struggled against a low block, finding it difficult to open it up. I assume this was the thinking behind the Maddison move, as it was one of his talents. If not Maddison, where should they look? Presumably around the 40 to 50 million range. I think you can answer Shabozlai, to be fair, but where would you stand with that?
Anyone, I'm more than happy to spend 100 million on two midfielders. I'm not going to lie, I'm more than happy with that. I don't think my club's ever. Well, we spent 139 million the window after the takeover, I think, roughly around there.
Money's coming in.
Yeah, I'd like to spend 139 million. But yeah, do you know what? As I said, Szoboszlai, his release clause is 70 million euros. So obviously you're looking about 60-ish million pounds around about there. So yeah, I'll be more than happy for Szoboszlai to be that. I don't actually know who else we're really linked to at the moment, because again, as I've said, links are few and far between with Newcastle at the moment. Moussa Diaby was from Leverkusen, is another one that we've been very, very heavily linked with for a long time. It seems
to have gone quiet on both fronts. Maybe there's something in the background.
We haven't been linked with him again since January, or there's been no talk around him again. So I have no idea. I would like even like Lavia, for example, from Southampton. I would absolutely love him as well. He'll probably be about 40 million. So yeah, you could have a few players really. Just depends on where everyone goes now, because obviously Rice going to Arsenal, Caicedo, depends who Man City then go for.
It's like
because
a domino
most
effect.
of the teams that are going to be competing for top 7-ish this year need a midfielder. So it's going to be interesting to see who goes where.
Final question. It's actually someone that you allegedly were talking with in Dubai in January. What do you make of the links with Arda Güler, the young Fenerbahce lad, if you know too much about him? He's sick. I can't lie. I think
He
he's
is
a linchpin for
very,
Turkish
very
football.
good. Very, very good.
Wonderful
And apparently
footballer.
Fenerbahce only want about
17 million quid.
yeah,
Something
between
like that.
17-20
He
million.
needs to get done. Arsenal need to
So
do that tomorrow if it was up to me.
he is elite. Mike, my really good friend who I know from Twitter, he is very, very talent ID heavy. He knows a lot of young talent, and he rates Arda Güler extremely highly.
Nah, he's
so,
right. He knows what he's talking about. Shout out to Mike, man. He's lit.
Yeah,
That guy is lit.
He's brilliant. Now it would definitely be a player that I would love to do. And it's like Dan Ashworth, our sporting director, is known for these deals. Young, did it at Brighton. This is the whole Brighton model. Young, relatively unknown talent from a league outside of
well, potentially.
a league outside of the main, obviously top 5-6 leagues. So yeah, it would definitely be an Ashworth type signing. But we have been linked to them. But again, a lot of teams have, like Gabri Vega as well from Celta Vigo. A lot of people
He's been linked with the world, man. City
with him,
today, actually.
His agent's on overtime. So yeah, be interesting. But Güler is definitely a signing that I would love.
Quality. I mean, he's a quality player. So what, if you could only, obviously we assume you've got Tonali, right? We hope you get all the other players. If there's only one area, my final question for you would be, if there was only one area of the pitch you could address this summer, excluding what you've done already or what we've spoken about, and the window closes tomorrow, what would you do? What would it be if you had the keys at Newcastle?
That's actually quite hard because I'm between two. So it'll definitely be a left back or a winger. A winger who's actually right-footed on the right wing, because Almiron has no right foot, so he's very predictable in terms of defending against, because he always has to cut in and shoot with his left from the right, which I don't necessarily like. Yeah, because you're very predictable to defend against if you're an experienced defender. Obviously, he scored a few goals. He scored more goals this season than he has in his previous Newcastle career the whole time.
Took the insults from Jack Grealish personally, really. He took it very personally.
Yeah. Some people want to be wishing that Jack Grealish insults their players this summer, so he seems to be better to put that behind him, though. So, yeah, I would probably, just because I think we've got cover enough at left back for now, I think probably a winger. Because obviously, like Saint-Maximin will probably be going. Even though I don't want him to, I think he will, because he's probably our most, at the moment, resellable player who is linked with the move. So yeah, probably a winger.
In fact, now that you said that, before I let you get out of it, what do you make of Saint-Maximin? Because he seemed like, if I go back 18 months ago, he was the star boy at Newcastle. He was someone that, a bit like Payet at West Ham, could do no wrong. The skills, the showmanship, still gets bums off seats and things like that. But it's almost, I know he's had injuries, but it's like he's become a bit disposable. The team's kind of gone past him, and it feels difficult to say that about a quality player. But yeah, and as you said, he's been linked with moves away. And again, paper talk and actually what Newcastle are thinking are two different things. But it seems like quite open to letting him go, really and truly. Like, it's not the end of the world, which it might have been previously.
Yeah, he's a luxury player, Saint-Maximin. So, like, not a lot of teams have a player like Saint-Maximin.
Very fair weather.
He's just very, and as well, it's a struggle because he has been injury prone for a number of years now. We've actually handled his injuries probably in the last season better than he ever has done in his Newcastle career. And I know he's determined, and he's one of these players, and I think mainly the reason why I would be sad to see him go is because I know he's got so much potential, and he's still relatively young, and he can still reach the potential that I believe that he has. He just needs a consistent run in the team. But also, he's heavily, heavily invested in the community in Newcastle, in the club, and in the fans. Like,
That's great from him.
He'll rock up to games with Rolexes and just give them out to the fans who are waiting there for him. And I know it's not all about gifts and it's not all about material things, but the fact that he's just willing to do that in a working class area, when those things will mean so much to Newcastle fans.
People remember that for life.
Yeah, 100%. He does a lot for the food bank. He does a lot for local hospitals. He promotes a lot of things in the area. Like, there's a like a shopping centre in Newcastle, it's in Gateshead, but called the Metro Centre, and he was in there one day doing he's got a board game called I can't remember what it's called now. It's like a Greek name, this board game that he's created, and he was in there doing like signings and like stuff like that. And he said to everyone in the shop, if it was like in a toy store, and he said, "Look, anyone in the shop now, fill a bag, and I'll just pay for it."
See. Especially in this day and age as well, man.
Yeah, cost of living and like
it's
in
ridiculous.
a working class area as well. Like that means everything to people, and he always, replies to fans, and he's just super loving of the club and of the fans. So I'll
Great
be
person, good
gutted.
footballer.
Yeah, I'll be gutted if he leaves. But I know he's a very polarizing character, and I know he is a footballer, and I know he does divide our fan base significantly. Even beyond our fan base, people are divided by him. They don't know what to make of him. I just want him to get a consistent run of the team, and unfortunately, now we've signed Tonali. I doubt Joe Linton goes into midfield. I think Joe Linton will end up being pushed out wide a little bit at times. Sad. It makes me really sad, but I just don't see a place for him in the team, like a starting every week, which is sad. But I just think he's probably our most valuable asset at the moment that we can sell on, and he may, relish the challenge elsewhere. And I think no matter who gets him, he'll be a fantastic addition to any team. I just hope it's not a Premier League team, because that is what makes me sick. I cannot think, honestly, I cannot get over if he goes to a Premier League team. I'll be ill. I'll be like, I don't even want to watch me. I don't want to watch the rest of the season. I don't care if he goes abroad, because I'll be like, fine, I don't have to deal with him on a weekly basis. Yeah, I don't have to sit and watch how he improves or how good he is in a team anymore. Or I don't have to watch him love another team. That's not Newcastle. Like proper jealousy. But yeah, as long as he goes, I hope he doesn't. And Eddie Howe's been very like vocal about the fact he really wants him to stay. Obviously, but he's not going to sit there and be like, oh well, I want.
He's not gonna. He's a bit of a white lie. It's a bit of a half.
He's not going to say that, but I do honestly think he believes it, and I do think Eddie Howe wants him to be a big part of the team going forward. Unlike Fraser, because Eddie Howe's not one for letting.
Yeah, he's frozen him out immediately.
And he said in a press conference, he said, "Don't ask me about Ryan Fraser, because he's playing for the under-23s, and as long as I'm here, he will not be part of the first team again."
What did he do to make him that mad? Wow.
So obviously they've got beef from Bournemouth because Ryan Fraser forced to move when they were getting relegated.
Yeah,
to
Eddie Howe
Newcastle.
said, "Yeah,
so
we'll see each other soon."
Then they seem to have like got past it a bit, because he did get asked about it when he first joined, and they got past it, and he played a few games, but something must have happened, and he said, "Yeah, he's not committed to this team, and so therefore he's not going to play in it again." So that's why I think he does probably believe in Saint-Maximin, but I think. Yeah, it's probably now's the time. He's been here, he'll be 4-5 seasons now. So yeah, I think it's maybe time that he might want to move on for a different challenge as well.
I mean, I think that's the only problem, if you were kind of languishing in 12th and 10th and things, you could kind of put up with Saint-Maximin, and it feels sad to say put up, but as you're trying to aspire to become a consistent Champions League team, a team that wins trophies, your talent becomes less relevant, and it's more about your application and your consistency. And can the manager believe in you? Again, as we both said, you're going to have Champions League one week, this competition the next. The manager needs to have faith in that you're going to be fit, that you can do what he demands of you tactically, and that you're going to be consistent, because, again, I'm not watching Saint-Maximin week in, week out, but he seems like there's a player that there's no in between. Some days he might even look like a young black Lionel Messi. The others, he might look very rubbish. And then beyond this, you very rarely get 5s and 6s. It's 20s or 0s. So I can understand that. And as a manager, that does your head in. You'd like to have him on the bench and in the squad and rotate and things, because sometimes his randomness can help you. But he's the sort of player, he either dances past the whole team or he loses it on the edge of his area and it costs you 3 points. So who knows, man? We'll have to see. Have you got any content to come out this week or whatever? I know I'm always on to you about bringing out videos and things, but I know you appear on other channels and things. So yeah, let people know they can find you, and if you've got any other content, man.
Yes, it's literally just Kendall Rowan, and that's most of my socials. If you're seeing
it'll be in the description, folks.
Yeah, people are getting on to me about like YouTube and stuff, and I really am, and I'm so striving to start YouTube up again. This summer, I've been saying it probably for the last 2 years.
You need to. It's transfer window season now.
Exactly, that's true. I don't think I've uploaded anything since like last year, like prediction wise. So we'll see, but I really am trying to do it. I have started doing more USA sports content for a company that's based in Newcastle as well, called USA Sports Merch. It's in my bio on Twitter if you want to go and follow that as well. And
go and follow it, folks.
Done NBA stuff lately, and NHL and Major League Baseball and F1 and things like that. So yeah, if you want to just anything to do with sports, I'm here. I'm here. I'll probably do anything, but I will get more consistent with the content because now I'm working from home again. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a bit more consistent now.
You lot, make sure you follow her on Twitter and get on to her about that. Started on YouTube. Go and follow her in her bio and check out all the other sports. It's been fantastic having you here, Kendall. Let you get out of here. People, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and the rest of it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And on that note, we're out, folks, man. Appreciative of you lot listening. Kendall, one love for giving me your time. We're out.
So you always use that active red flag, defending. I think it's like